I'm Sunny Galt, and welcome to Kid Points. Today we're talking about how to get your kids to eat great and to love it. And our special guest is Dr. Christine Wood. She's a pediatrician as well as an expert on child nutrition and obesity. Welcome to our show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So we hear so much about childhood obesity. We hear it in the news and everything. Is it really more prevalent now in today's society?
Yes, it certainly has been a problem, and I think there's been a lot of, obviously, media attention and even attention now from the First Lady Obama and everything on this whole issue. Statistics are showing that if you look at our 2 to 5-year-olds, the rate of obesity has doubled in the last 30 years from like 5% to 10%. And if you look at our teenagers, it's actually more than tripled in the last 30 years from about 5% to about 18%. So we're really on an upward trend of seeing this issue of children having much more problems with being overweight in this society.
What are some of those health issues that are associated with obesity?
Well, I think everybody clearly knows things like high blood pressure and diabetes. Children who are born after the year 2000, 1 in 3 in this country have a risk of developing type 2 diabetes in their lifetime. We used to call it adult onset diabetes because it used to be thought to be only in adults, but we're seeing it in children and teenagers, and this is related to their lifestyle.
As a parent, what can you do to encourage your kids to eat properly?
Well, I think it starts when they're young. Obviously I tell parents, okay, the first year it's pretty easy. You're in control, you have sort of an idea. I think every parent wants to start out doing all the right things in that first year. And then suddenly it seems like in that second year, suddenly parents are starting to fall for the sort of more packaged processed choices. And they kind of maybe don't even think that the fresh foods are going to be something that will appeal to them anymore. And I don't know what changes there. And again, there have been studies to show that there is a switch somewhere around 18 months to 2 years where suddenly kids are getting more snack food, processed food. I tell parents if it comes in a box, it probably, and has more than 5 ingredients in it, it's probably not the healthiest choice. And so when they are starting out with those choices, and obviously they have more sugar or fat or salt that makes them taste better usually, then they start to drift away from the healthier choices, the fresh fruits and vegetables, whole grains, those types of things.
What creative ideas do you have for parents for meals and snacks?
The way we present things has to be, as you're saying, creative, a little bit fun. One strategy I talk about is even the way you talk about a food. If you say, oh, we're going to eat ants on a log, and you roll a banana up in yogurt and put some raisins on top, and you call that ants on a log, the kid suddenly gets engaged with that. I used to have these little tiny cookie cutters that I would cut up like fruits or vegetables sometimes, and they were like star shape or moon shape. So when my son was learning shapes, I could say, eat the stars, eat the moons.
So it's a learning activity.
So you kind of try to make it fun and creative. If you put cottage cheese in an ice cream cone and you call that your ice cream cone, sometimes that's kind of a fun thing to be able to do. Just the way you name foods, sometimes calling broccoli trees is just a simple thing that will kind of get them interested in what they're eating.
What advice do you have for parents who may, started out feeding their kids, what they were supposed to feed them, and then they kind of fell off the bandwagon? What advice do you have for those types of parents?
Well, basically, you can always go back and fix things, and I try to tell parents, don't lose hope on that. And so basically, if they can just start to say, well, I'm not going to buy certain things because the kids aren't going to purchase most of those foods at a young age on their own. So what you bring into the house and the environment is really key. If you also just have the fruits and vegetables cut up easy front and center in the refrigerator or on the countertop, then again, that becomes an easier choice for the kids to have. So you can always take your kids in a direction, and you don't have to be drastic about it. You want to be balanced about it. You want to allow your kids to have some of those other choices at times, but when you find that, okay, we're way over here and we should be way over here, you can kind of sometimes find some ground in the middle.
Yeah. In your professional opinion, is it okay to have separate meals? I know you say, some people come to you and they've already had that established, but what would be your recommendation?
Common. I try to discourage parents from starting out that way because it's always harder to go back when you've been doing something and then you're trying to retract it and go, okay, now we're going to do this. So if you can just say, this is what we eat. And when my son was little, I would just simplify things. I mean, I wouldn't put crazy sauces and things on the chicken. I'd make it plain and then have the sauce on the side so he could make a choice on
Right.
that. When you have kids who are super picky, another trick is, have some fruit as part of your meal. And parents sometimes don't think about that. They think, oh, they need to be eating all those vegetables. But if your kids love fruit, allow that as a choice too. And get them involved with some of the choices. And that can be really helpful too for the kids when they're making some decisions, or you take them to the grocery store and you go, okay, you pick out what fruits we're going to have this week.
Right.
And that empowers them.
How do you feel about snacks? Are there certain things parents should keep in mind?
Well, there's a couple things I try to coach my parents. One is not to allow the constant grazing all day, or snacks as a reward, or just because they're bored or they're being, ornery, or they're fighting in the car, and feeding them the food. Not a good habit to really get into. We don't want to use food in that way. Okay. So I try to tell parents use snacks as planned snacks and meals, and that's what we should really be shooting for. I coach kids, especially when they're older, I say, you know what? If you have a fruit or vegetable with every meal and snack, guess what? You're going to be getting your 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day. And so that's another thing I try to teach parents. And not to say that they can't have other things for their snacks, but if we can encourage a couple slices of apples or a few bites of a carrot with their snacks, that can be really helpful in addition to what they're eating.
Do family meals help with that? Hey, this is what mommy and daddy are eating. Do you want to try this?
Yeah, definitely eating with the family has been shown in a lot of studies to encourage kids to eat healthier. In addition, I am really try to tell parents, do not turn the TV on when you're eating your meals. It should be family time. It should be a time to have pleasant discussion, find out about their day, catch up. If meal is a stressful time, or if everybody's distracted, watching TV while they're eating, we tend to eat more when we're watching TV, and so snacking also shouldn't occur while the television's on.
We talked about young kids who are picky eaters, but what about older children?
You can kind of engage them with food. School gardens, or parents who can have gardens, it's a great way to get kids to try foods. And so if you can get them involved with cooking or picking foods, or going to the grocery store and choosing some fruits and vegetables, having them pick out recipes, having them cook a menu plan with you. Those can be ways to kind of get your little bit older kids engaged with food and what's involved. I talk to parents sometimes about if I don't like the parents to battle, and that we've kind of talked about that, but it's the parents' responsibility to pick and choose what to put on the plate. It really is the kids' responsibility to pick and choose what to eat of that. Obviously, we want to keep trying, but if you're starting to force them to eat and battle with them and argue with them, you're going to lose. So if you can at least start with having them try a bite, I call it a thank you bite, or a 1-bite rule, where they can at least try and taste everything that's on their plate. That can be a great way to start with some of those little older kid picky eaters. One other way you can deal with it is you can be a little sneaky sometimes. And so, example, if you make a smoothie, you add some fresh fruit in it, you could throw in a little carrot juice or green juice. You could throw in a little chunk of tofu for protein, and a lot of the kids won't mind that at all. Right. So sometimes you can be a little sneaky with things to help your older kids at least to get a little bit of that in their diet.
What do you do for kids who, don't even want to eat one meal as opposed to a couple good healthy meals?
Usually we feel most kids are pretty good at what we call self-regulating. And yes, there can be meals that they just aren't hungry, and they'll have 1 or 2 bites and I'm done. And so you just have to sort of say, okay. But if they come back to you, this is the other common thing, they come back to you a half hour and then they want dessert, or they want, some other meal prepared for them, you can say, you know what? You made your choice, and you chose not to eat when we served you dinner. And it's usually dinner that I find this is a common thing. Right. And I'll say, you know what, you can have a big breakfast when you get up. They have to sort of learn the consequences of what they're choosing. And again, you're giving them that choice, and you're allowing them those choices. But if they choose not to eat, then they have to sort of deal with the consequences if they're hungry like 20 minutes later, but they want a mac and cheese or something else that you're going to have to make.
Part of being healthy is not only eating healthy, but it's also exercise. So what types of recommendations do you have for parents?
Yeah, it's great that parents really try to encourage family activities. The parents should be active too, and if they're not role modeling it, then that makes it difficult. So I try to encourage families to put on their calendar family bike ride or family to the park, or create those spots in your calendar where you're going to really engage your kids to get out and do something active with them.
Right.
That's a big part of it. It's great if kids are interested in sports. That can be great for some kids, but not all kids are that way. So sometimes it's a matter of finding fun things for them to do around the house. Make a dance skit up, try and do something outside where they're throwing a ball or just playing outside. I mean, outdoor activity, just free outdoor activity is fine too. And kids should be getting a good, 60 minutes a day of really good, sweaty kind of activity pretty much every day. And so it is important for parents to be able to find that time for them to do that. And so one thing that you can do is on the website, we have the points that they can earn for exercise and also time for limiting of their screen time. And they can earn points for limitations, or the parents can also look at ways to have them earn screen time by doing positive things. And obviously we want to stay within limits if your kids are really good and they're earning lots of points, but I think we can figure out how to balance that out.
What additional resources do you recommend for parents who want to get their kids to eat healthy?
Well, I have my website, kidseatgreat.com, and my book is available there on my website. And I have a lot of information that I have posted on there that I'm continually updating. And I have an email newsletter that I send out. And then we have some resources right on the Kid Points website. We have a refrigerator goals chart. We also have a snack chart, so parents and kids can create sort of a sometime, anytime, and occasional snack list with their kids. And then I also have the 51 great eating tips for busy families there that they can get a lot of little tips on that.
Yeah. Hey, Dr. Christine Wood, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.